DreamHack Arena Extreme. Are you ready to see StarCraft 2 at its finest? I can see that you're pumped. So, anyways, let's get right to it. Let's see the two finest StarCraft 2 commentators in the whole wide world, Day9 and Apollo!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome. I am Day9, and this is D Apollo. How are y'all doing tonight?
That's quite a sick response. That's quite a sick response.
I know. Are you as excited as I am, Mr. Apollo?
I'm so excited. I'm shaking over here. I'm getting ready to cast some excellent StarCraft 2 games.
And for any of you who didn't know, of course, the weather isn't so nice outside. Many people died on the way here. Trucks and cars overturned, but you're the survivors. Here for the very first ever StarCraft 2 tournament at DreamHack 2010. And the competitors today are among the best in the whole world, and there's a very excited woman in the back.
She obviously knows Mad Frog's going to play. Such a handsome guy.
Mad Frog is quite dashing, and he will be in this first group, in Group A, that consists of ThorZain, Elfie, Mad Frog, and White-Ra. So without any further ado, we are going to run up to our little commentary corner in the top, and let's give a cheer for DreamHack Steel Series LAN 2010.
Thank you, Day9, for that great introduction. So, we're going to just start out with the players that is coming from my right is Elfie, Lucifron, and Mad Frog and Top. Yeah, so anyways, let's go to the other players on the left side of me, and it's NTT, ThorZain, Action Jesus, and White-Ra. Come out of here! So, anyways, they are still configuring the computers up there. So I'm just going to tell you about, we're going to throw out some free stuff later on about, from QPad and so on. So, anyways, it seems they are soon ready up there. And let's go to Day9.
Time to do a little bit of casting. Oh, fantastic. Now, of course, I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about this first match we have coming up here.
The first match is going to be White-Ra versus...
All right, so it looks like our first match is, of course, going to be White-Ra against ThorZain, a little PvT action.
That's actually going to be a really good game.
Yeah,
ThorZain is so good.
Yeah, you know, that's something to note, that both of these players have been practicing a lot for this tournament. White-Ra, of course, came out with an early sprint in the early days of the beta. He was a Brood War hero, but for StarCraft 2, he kind of had a little bit of lull in his strength right when the game came out. But he is back in full force, performed brilliantly at BlizzCon, taking third place. Oh, yes, indeed.
That is such a great feat to finish third place. Aside from me, I think he was the highest non-Asian player to... Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was Loner in second, and of course, a Korean next genius in first. But you know, ThorZain is a player who really has been putting in a ton of practice, an excellent Terran player, and so White-Ra's going to have a little bit of trouble because honestly, I think White-Ra's best match is probably his Protoss versus Zerg.
Yeah, definitely. And ThorZain is so good versus Protoss. He's like, I think he's in the EPS semifinals and the Nordic semifinals, and that's quite an achievement in itself. And we are going to get into that game pretty soon. We're going to invite the players. But like we were saying, ThorZain is so good. He's won multiple Viking Cups as well, taking out players like Nana, another great player. White-Ra, though, is not someone you can just walk over. He is such a talented player, and he has been around forever.
Yeah,
oh, my God.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and one thing is that the players actually need to add us on the friends list. There they are. Hello. It looks like the players have just logged in, so we'll be able to start the first match. Now, for any of you who just tuned in, there will be 6 matches played today, 3 from Group A and 3 from Group B. So in the first hour and a half today, it will be the Group A matches, and they will be playing out all their games right there up on the main stage. For any of you in the crowd, you can see them logging into Battle.net training right now.
Yeah, we are just going to get underway. Both players will be... Are they accepted you yet? Like, no. Like, you can't cast this game.
Yeah, I know.
Like, no, we really do want to cast this game for you guys.
Yeah, we had to add each player individually to our buddy list, so that way we can get started. So, ThorZain.
What is the first map for this? It's going to be...
We're going to get the info from the players. Because the map set, the way it works is that most tournaments have a preset series of maps, but at the DreamHack Steel Series LAN, there are 7 maps in the map pool. Each player chooses 2 that he does not want in, and then they eliminate 1 more each, so there's only 1 map that will be remaining. So as a result, it's really the players who get to decide. Now, personally, I'm curious, what do you think would be the most chosen map based upon that result?
I'd probably say Metalopolis. It's such a... well, I can't really say completely balanced for all 3 races, but it is the most balanced out of all the maps, so probably in my opinion. All 3 races do have kind of equal opportunities to take down the game versus the other race. The thing we have to talk about really is that in the group stages, it's only just the 1 game, which is going to be so detrimental to the entire results of each game in the group stage, as both players have to anticipate any form of cheese, any kind of rush builds, anything like that can just throw them off the game. So they've got to be super careful and play as solid as possible, not to lose in such a stupid way. But and like I was speaking to the players behind stage before, that's actually one of their major concerns, like, oh, this is actually just the best of 1 in the group stage, and this could throw me out of the tournament straight away.
Yeah, you know, and that is something that is going to put a lot of pressure on the players, but again, they do get to choose all the maps that they want to avoid any goofiness on. For instance, Scrap Station can be very hard to play against Zerg. So it looks like ThorZain and White-Ra have chosen the map Zelnaga Caverns. I think that's a great choice to begin this tournament because, again, it's a very well-balanced map. It's a very straightforward one as well. There's not too much craziness that can happen in it.
Yeah, it's actually quite a cool map. The thing that ThorZain has to be careful about is there's so many locations on this map that you can hide pylons and your tech structures because of the bushes, and then you've got the different locations on the left and right-hand side depending on where you spawn. So that's one of the things that you have to be careful about, especially being just the best of 1. You don't want to lose to any hidden tech structures such as DTs or Stargate or whatever. But it looks like both players are in the game now. We're just going to see if they are ready to begin.
All right, now before we end up getting into this first match, I got to know, are there any ThorZain fans in the crowd?
And also, are there any White-Ra fans in the crowd? Oh my God!
Oh, we got a crowd favorite.
Woo! White-Ra does have a few fans in the crowd.
Now, one thing to note, they're just sorting out final sound issues again because we are loud people. They want to make sure that they cannot hear us while we are screaming what they are doing here. It looks like White-Ra is ready, and ThorZain is just sorting out this final last match. So, honestly, what are your predictions for how this game is going to be playing out?
This is such a hard matchup to call predictions, but I really do feel that White-Ra has been on form recently. He's been playing extremely well in training games. He feels confident. I spoke to him behind stage just now, and he's feeling confident. And I probably, in my opinion, I'd swing it in favor of White-Ra, but not by much. Probably like 55-45. It will be a close game.
And you know, that is a potential advantage for the less-known player because, honestly, if you have made it to the final 32 here at the Steel Series LAN, you're going to be an extremely strong player. So this means that ThorZain obviously is going to be very, very talented. But it means that White-Ra's had no chance to see what ThorZain's strategies are. ThorZain could have studied White-Ra as much as he wanted to. And honestly, you can execute a risky build if you're in ThorZain's situation and pull off a miracle win because, again, it's just best of 1.
Yeah, and both players do have capabilities to actually, like you were saying, study each other. Both players do play on Europe, and because of the features within Battle.net, you can review build orders and whatnot. Both players know each other's style, and that's, like you were saying, possibly a disadvantage in terms of, for White-Ra, in terms of that he is so well known. Everybody watches his streams. You can see all the fans in the crowd.
Yeah,
You okay there?
Yeah, I'm just redressing
so
myself for the match.
ThorZain can actually research deeply into White-Ra and study every move, every slip-up, every mistake that White-Ra makes that ThorZain can know and abuse. And that's obviously, that's got to be something that he wants to concentrate to take down White-Ra.
So ThorZain did just log off and relog back on. Apparently there was an error on his computer. So of course, we just love to build the tension, and we love to tease. Now let's take a look at some of the matches that we have coming up after this series. It's going to be Madfrog against Elfie, and then I think we're going to wrap up with what I would call the big crowd favorite for the Group A series, which is going to be Madfrog against White-Ra. So that is going to be quite juicy.
That is going to be so good. We are just checking if players both are ready now. We're just waiting for ThorZain to re-enter. Everything is okay on the technical side. We are good to go. I'm ready to cast this game. I'm pretty sure you're ready to cast this as well.
We're all ready to cast the game. White-Ra's in the game, but ThorZain's having some problems.
So we'll have to just wait for him a second. But going back to the map, I don't know what the statistics are on the map between Protoss and Terran. I don't think it's that much different in terms of balance within races.
Now, I will say that, Marines and Marauders have traditionally been the standard style of play on that map. Actually, the standard style of play on most maps for Terran. But lately, Protoss have kind of hit this stride where if they make it to the 15-minute mark, it's extremely hard for Terrans to do much of anything. On a map like Xel'Naga Caverns, a lot of times that's okay because you have the backdoor entrance to your natural. Your third base for Protoss, really no matter what it is going to be pretty vulnerable. And of course, drops in the main along the side are so potent. So I think that that's a reasonable choice.
And that's what Terrans have really been advancing with their style of play as the game develops. Terran players are actually starting to abuse, well not abuse such, as to use drops so efficiently. I mean, they'd move down with a bunch of Marine Marauders, and the Protoss player's like, okay, he's coming, I'm gonna get ready, gotta get ready. And then all of a sudden there's a drop in your main, and all probes are dying, you're losing key structures. And that's what players have been doing, and especially players like the Muslim who have studied Terran so well, played it from the day one in the beta. That is what they do, multiple drops all over the place, and that's what White-Ra has to be careful about.
And I have great news, ladies and gentlemen. We are going into Game 1 of the DreamHack 2010 first ever StarCraft 2 tournament. Give a cheer for ThorZain and White-Ra. And here we are going into Game 1 on Xel'Naga Caverns. White-Ra's big concern is Protoss. His big concern is White-Ra is how is he going to take his third base? How can he protect that? And of course, Terrans is going to be how can he abuse mobility on this map. In the bottom left, we have White-Ra spawning as the purple Protoss, more commonly known as the blue Protoss. And in the top right, we have ThorZain, the red Terran.
And if we do look at the Group A, both players are in Group A. We have White-Ra, Madfrog, ThorZain, and Elfie. ThorZain, looking at paper, doesn't look like he can come out of the group, but I really do not think we should underestimate him, as he's been showing some good results recently, just like White-Ra has, and this is definitely an interesting game. Got to see what both players do though. I'm not sure how White-Ra does like to play on this map, though.
And as we can see, ThorZain using a little bit of that adrenaline to help him up to the 250 APM range, throwing down a supply depot. Nothing too out of the ordinary at this point in time, but again, ThorZain is the sort of player who practices quite a bit. Would not be surprised to see him drill out a very interesting strategy in this game. And again, best of one, so players will be putting out their best show each time.
Yeah, and the barracks has been put down here. Totally standard, but we are seeing the probe move out now for White-Ra. We'll be going up there to scout and just see exactly what's going on. He will scout that ThorZain doesn't really have any wall off or anything, but that's not really key in this matchup, Terran versus Protoss, where compared to Brood War back in the day, it used to be so vital that you needed to wall off, especially because of forward gateways and whatever. But in StarCraft 2, that's not really a problem, as we do see the barracks in the main. The refinery also going down now for ThorZain.
So it looks like the probe of White-Ra whipped around to try to pick off this SCV a little bit, but ThorZain will manage to get the scout off. Looks like White-Ra is now heading up into the main of ThorZain, sees that barracks getting thrown down, so there will be an orbital command coming up any second. Meanwhile, White-Ra has just finished his gateway and his assimilator, and I love this pylon placement. Any Hellions that get at the back of this base get blocked off, or any Reaper harassed, which is becoming increasingly popular in this matchup. And there's a cybernetics core going down, so very standard openings in these first 3 minutes.
Yeah, we're going to have to see what ThorZain does. He will be chasing now. Oh, look at this. He puts down the second barracks and the reactor on the first. That's quite interesting straight away. Opting not to go for the factory, as a lot of Terran players like to do. This is going to be extremely interesting to see how he's going to develop this build.
And it did look like ThorZain threw down that barracks and then canceled to make sure that White-Ra's probe had left his base, and then immediately throwing down that barracks. And this is going to be very confusing for White-Ra if he chooses to scout soon. This reactor takes so long to build that it looks like ThorZain is teching. It looks like there's no Marines at the front, so it's a very, very nice opening for Terran because it's so deceptive.
Yeah, and we do have the second gas been put down for White-Ra, and this hidden SCV still in the base of White-Ra. I don't even think it's been detected at all, so he will be able to move down and scout out exactly what's going on. But if we look over at ThorZain's base, he has got the tech lab going, and it looks like we might be seeing some very early aggression from ThorZain with probably, I'm going to suspect that he will be getting Stim quite soon, as that's probably the vital upgrade needed on that tech lab.
White-Ra's continuing to just poke around the front. He hasn't seen any Marines yet, but he just wants to be certain that anything that pops down that base he can spot and run away with in time. There's the concussive shell going down. It looks like ThorZain doing something a little bit more economically focused, probably a little bit more defensive, as like you said, Stim is that key upgrade. And there is a robo and a double gateway opening for White-Ra, so it looks like he wants to play it really safe, but man, ThorZain is feeling very comfortable right now, as he has full vision of everything going on inside White-Ra's base.
And it looks like the SUV does go down, and he will be moving out. With this small clump of Marines and Marauder will be going down. The shells are almost done as well. Stim won't be done by the time he gets down there. That will be the second upgrade, but he is going to move down, see if he can do any pressure to White-Ra. And with going for this robo facility, he's not actually going to have that many units out, and this could be, putting White-Ra under a lot of pressure very early on in this game.
Yeah, White-Ra almost certainly wanted to get an extremely fast observer out because, it looks like he just got a probe in the main anyways, and that is going to be so huge for White-Ra to get that big amount of information. He ordinarily wanted to get an observer out quickly to scout, but that probe managed to save the day. And here's the big push, and there's the force field that gets thrown down, cutting those units in half. And look at this great positioning by White-Ra.
And that was a great reaction from White-Ra. As soon as he scouted that with a probe, saw the second racks, he got the extra sentry out to help defend against this. And now there are no Marauders and Marines only left, so he is going to have to pull back. But at the same time, it looks like ThorZain's deciding to go for the command center, and White-Ra's probe still alive and does see exactly what's going on. And now it looks like White-Ra is going to be on the aggressive side.
He knows that it's only Marines without Stim and very few Marauders, so he's going to go ahead and push with this very small, very well-constructed force and take an early expansion of his own. Pylon going down, no observer getting constructed quite yet. Looks like that Stalker is taking an early catch-up to this small band of units, but White-Ra's going to have to be very careful because with that concussive shell, any units that are off-placed will get picked off. Yeah,
he's definitely going to move back, and he does decide to retreat with this small force, and he's going to go back down to his Nexus. A ton of bunkers been put down, 3 bunkers down. A lot of SCVs been pulled off as well. He's probably just going to keep them there just in case of any kind of form of aggression from White-Ra, and then just transfer them onto the natural.
You know, Diapollo, one of my absolute favorite moves is exactly what we saw here from White-Ra. You move forward with a large force and then don't do anything with it. You just walk right back home because it's made ThorZain build 4 bunkers. He doesn't want to lose a game of StarCraft in general, and he definitely doesn't want to lose one here on the big stage at DreamHack, so is making way more defense than it turns out that he actually needs. And ordinarily, I would really dislike this very fast Robo-Bay, but White-Ra killed off a lot of units in that first push.
And this SCV is moving down. It will get destroyed on the gold and denying scouting, and he has no idea about this Nexus being put down. And this is looking really good for White-Ra. He's having to send another SCV down here. He's going to move down to try and scout. He needs to find out what exactly is going on. He has not decided to use any scans on White-Ra's base, so he's kind of clueless into what White-Ra's going for.
Absolutely, and I mean, as we look in ThorZain's base, all those bunkers have prevented ThorZain from getting any additional barracks. This is 400 extra minerals. That's almost 3 more barracks. There's the engineering bay going down for ThorZain, clearly intending to get some upgrades. There's the salvages going down on 2 of those bunkers, and kind of an intimidating push coming out right now for ThorZain. His combat shield is half done.
And it looks like White-Ra should be able to hold on to this. He has got the Colossus coming out. The Thermal Lance isn't quite done though. It's only halfway. And then ThorZain does decide to retreat and getting down a 3rd command center, actually, Day 9.
Wow. I think this is a very smart play by ThorZain. Again, a tribute to his practice. After going into big defensive mode and knowing that he won't really have time to make those extra barracks because of all the bunkers he made, he just takes the opportunity to embrace his defensive position and go for the fast 3rd command center.
And that's actually going to really change into, well, going into the later mid-game. That's going to give him such a boost. And oh no, this probe is going to get in. It drops down a pylon, actually. The probe does die, though, and it forces the cancel on the pylon as the infantry army from ThorZain does see that. Did he actually scout the 3rd command center, though? That's what's important. And he did scout the third command center, so he knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah, that's actually quite huge because White-Ra now knows that there's going to be very little threat of a push happening for a long time. And look at this brilliant response by White-Ra. Just throw down a forge, get a fast upgrade. You know your opponent cannot attack you for a very long time if that early third command center is down. So White-Ra doing the smart move and taking a third himself, it appears.
Yeah, he will be taking down these rocks, and like you said, taking down the third himself. When we look over in the base of ThorZain, he is getting +1 infantry weapons, which is going to help out a lot, especially now the forge is being made and upgrades are going to be produced by White-Ra as well, just to counteract each other. Great play. But at the same time, as you were looking here, he is getting the double starport. With the reactor on one of them, we're going to see a ton of Vikings out to actually help defend against all these Colossus which are being made.
Now, this is a pretty extreme play by ThorZain. A lot of Terrans have been just really hating Marine and Marauder balls against Protosses because force fields cut everything in half. So rather than get more Marines and Marauders, just get a couple and then go for the extremely fast double starport. Very new school kind of way to play. But if we look at White-Ra's force, he has these 2 Colossi, but other than that, he really does not have that many units underneath. So I think a very smart play, and there's the +1 from White-Ra.
No, he really doesn't have that many units, even though the food count is basically right the same. And you know, he's going to come down and trying to do a ton of damage to this third Expo. He's going to have to lift it up basically straight away, probably lose that mule's worth. Yeah, he's going to lose that. Nice play by White-Ra, just keeping him off that third, as White-Ra doesn't really have his third himself.
Yeah, and it does look like an SCV got all the way into White-Ra's main and got yet another peek as to what's going on, but very smart gateway placement by White-Ra. And that +1 is continuing to be chrono boosted. There's ThorZain retreating the command center, just continuing to mass up. And let's see where his force of Vikings has begun to compile. Oh, there is a whole bunch of Vikings pulling back. Looks like not too much damage has been dealt to White-Ra's main force.
Yeah, he has 8 Vikings out now in total, and that's going to be really vital in the fight against White-Ra. I mean, he has these 3 Colossus out. The thing that look at all these Zealots, how Zealot heavy the White-Ra actually is.
Gosh, there's so many Zealots coming out. That is the one danger of going for some sort of 2-base Colossus play. You end up spending almost all your gas, so the only thing you can really afford anymore is Zealots. Not that they're bad units, but again, it kind of can end up coming back to work against you with all the force fields you want to throw down to block off his units, also get in the way of your own Zealots.
And it looks like White-Ra is going to come down once again on the third, denying it again. This command center has been made for such a long time, but he cannot use it to mine anything from this third base. Really, really smart play by White-Ra, knowing that he spent that 400 on the command center and just not letting him use it, keeping these Stalkers around and putting a lot of pressure on the ThorZain. But look at the Viking count. There are so many Vikings.
This is an awful lot of Vikings at this stage in the game. We're just hitting now the 15-minute mark, and there's 12 Vikings out on the map. ThorZain now finally going to retake his third, but I think this is showing amazing patience by ThorZain, the fact that he's not too concerned with overcommitting here, just playing very, very patiently, trying to get some of these Colossi off at a funky angle, and it looks like here's the cluster of Vikings. Needs to be extremely careful, and ThorZain doing the smart thing, has 1 Marauder over at the right side, and most importantly, a Reaper here to bounce between these 2 bases so he can check for any expansion, so he knows nothing is up in White-Ra's base.
Yeah, and now White-Ra's actually giving him room. He wants to try and get this Marauder out of the base. The Marauder is going to go into everything, but the third base has been put down now for ThorZain, and this is going to really boost his economy. It's going to skyrocket now. Zealot charge is almost finished too. +2 weapons is being researched. Looks like White-Ra is going to wait for Zealot charge to go, and then it looks like he will be trying to attack into ThorZain. It looks like he might not even bother going to the third and just going straight down the natural. This could be really interesting to see how this plays out.
Oh, the Stalkers are sprinting up, and there's the stim from ThorZain. Oh, so smart by White-Ra. He just moves up, forces a stim, and pulls right back, and only 1 medevac out. She doesn't have enough juice to keep all those guys nice and healthy, so that is going to be a rough spot.
Yeah, that looks like kind of a mistake from ThorZain that he hasn't really got any medevacs. He only has 1. He spent all of his resources in the production time on the starport for the Vikings. Now White-Ra's going to go in. This could be crazy.
Oh, and the Colossi are moving up to the high ground. He's going to try to pick off all these production structures. And oh no, he walks right into the main. Oh, this is going to be so hard to deal with. And the force field getting thrown down. Oh my goodness. That is the kill zone for the Marines right there. All those Marines evaporating, but look at those Vikings one-shotting the Colossi with ease. But ThorZain is going to be short on a main base in a moment.
but he's used stims. He used stim too many times. All these Marauders are so low health, and there were just so many charged Zealots, and they're just going to rip through these, and there are too many Vikings. Even though they are eventually going to get these Colossus down, there's just no ground units left for ThorZain, and especially with no Medivacs in large trouble. And at the same time, 4 Zealots are on the third base of ThorZain, and White-Ra dominating this game.
Oh no, and it looks like ThorZain is out of main bases. And there's the final kill on the Colossus, but it won't be enough. There are so many Zealots ripping through everything. ThorZain trying to do some nice micro, but only has these 2 barracks on the backside. So this is going to be so hard to deal with. And look at this gigantic force. White-Ra moving in for the kill, and another stim. And look at how low the health is on all those Marauders.
Yeah, they're so low health, and these SCVs are just tanking damage, but it looks like White-Ra is going to take this game down. There's nothing ThorZain can do now. He's lost his third as well. He's down to 1 base only. It looks like he might be able to clean up this. I don't know, actually, if he lands these Vikings to be able to help, but I don't think so. White-Ra is going to clean up this first game.
And there's the good game. White-Ra taking the first win in Group A.
And as we were saying, it is only 1 game in Group A, and White-Ra shoots straight up in first place in Group A, taking that game down extremely cleanly. Execution, waiting for that Zealot speed to be finished, and then going in, doing the damage, realizing that all the focus throughout the entire mid-game was on ThorZain's third, and White-Ra, being such a smart, intelligent player, sends all his units directly into the natural, and then just walking into his main, and there was nothing he could do.
Yeah, I mean, very, very patient play by both players. I mean, I really liked how ThorZain was constantly checking if White-Ra had a third, and when ThorZain realized White-Ra didn't, ThorZain said, that's fine. I'll just wait until I can get a good opportunity to take my third. I don't need to rush it. I don't need to engage in an awkward angle, and that's really what White-Ra was trying to force ThorZain to do. Constantly moving back and forth, and all it took was 1 little mistake by ThorZain, not keeping his main as protected as he should have. And the swing around from White-Ra, and when he marched the entire army into that base, and you saw those 3 little sentries lagging behind, you knew it was coming. And 2 force fields later, and ThorZain was awfully low on main bases.
Exactly, just filtering the units on that ramp so the Colossus could do as much damage as possible. And as soon as the Vikings even tried to come close, Stalkers, sentries were there. I think, in all honesty, that ThorZain's mistake that game was that he just went far too Viking heavy, expected White-Ra to go a lot more Colossus heavy. Therefore, having all these Vikings that really in the end battle just couldn't do anything. They were trying to get shots off, but the ground army was not there. And he used all the production time on the double starport with reactors on Vikings rather than Medivacs. And that was kind of key because he kept on using stim. White-Ra even forcing him to use stim over and over and over. Putting all his units into yellow and red health and then cleaning up the rest.
Such patient play by White-Ra in that game. And I mean, it was a little bit too much for his opponent to handle, so very well played.